The starlight cascaded through the transparent dome of the Nexus Prime training facility, casting an ethereal glow on the most advanced simulation chamber in known galactic history. Generations of interstellar civilizations had tried and failed to conquer the legendary war scenario, a digital crucible that had become the ultimate test of strategic brilliance. The simulation was more than just a training exercise. It was a complex, multidimensional representation of a decade-long conflict that spanned multiple star systems, intricate political landscapes, and technological challenges that would make most species' strategic minds crumble. Created by the Galactic Peacekeeping Consortium, the simulation had become a near-mythical challenge that no species had ever completely solved. Deep within the facility's archives, holographic records told a story of failure. The Zinthari Collective had taken 14 standard galactic years to navigate just 62% of the scenario's challenges. The Silicon Concordance, renowned for their computational precision, had spent 12 years and still failed to reach a satisfactory resolution. Even the Quantum Harmony Alliance, with their advanced predictive algorithms, had been reduced to digital whispers of frustration after a decade of continuous attempts. The simulation was designed to be impossible. It wasn't just a test of military strategy or diplomatic negotiation. It was a comprehensive examination of species-level problem-solving, resource management, technological innovation, and interstellar communication. Each scenario was a nested complexity of potential outcomes, with millions of variables that shifted and adapted in real time. Most species approached the simulation with a methodical, linear mindset. They would spend months analyzing initial conditions, develop comprehensive strategies, and then execute their plans with rigid precision. But the simulation was designed to punish such approaches. It would introduce unexpected variables, create seemingly insurmountable challenges, and force participants to constantly adapt. The facility itself was a marvel of interstellar engineering. Located in a neutral zone between multiple star systems, Nexus Prime was a testament to collaborative scientific achievement. Its training dome could simulate entire galactic regions with microscopic detail, rendering environments so realistic that participants often forgot they were in a controlled simulation. As the next group of trainees prepared to enter the chamber, the facility's senior instructors gathered in the observation deck. Representatives from dozens of alien species watched with a mixture of professional curiosity and barely concealed skepticism. This group was different. They were humans, a species that had only recently joined the broader galactic community. Most of the instructors remembered the initial reports about humans. They were a young species, barely having achieved interstellar travel. Their home planet was considered a death world, an environment so harsh and unpredictable that most galactic species would struggle to survive. Yet these humans had quickly gained a reputation for being unpredictable, adaptable, and remarkably innovative. The facility's lead instructor, a crystalline being from the Luminarian cluster, adjusted its quantum-sensitive sensory appendages. Commander Xeltok had overseen thousands of simulation attempts and had developed an almost instinctive sense of a team's potential. As the human trainees entered the preparation area, something felt different. Unlike the uniformed teams of other species, these humans wore a variety of attire that seemed to reflect their individual personalities. Some carried personal devices, others spoke animatedly to each other, their body language suggesting a level of communication that went beyond verbal interaction. They moved with a combination of confidence and collaborative energy that was rare among interstellar training teams. The simulation's artificial intelligence began its initial setup. Massive holographic displays flickered to life, showing complex star maps, political boundaries, resource distributions, and potential conflict zones. In previous attempts, most teams would spend weeks just analyzing these initial conditions, but something told Commander Xeltok that this group might be different. As the humans entered the primary simulation chamber, a subtle tension filled the observation deck. Instructors from various species leaned forward, their sensory organs focused on the incoming team. They were about to witness another attempt at the galaxy's most challenging strategic simulation, a test that had broken the spirit of countless advanced civilizations. Little did they know that this group of human trainees was about to rewrite everything they understood about strategic problem-solving. The 20 human trainees moved with a unique rhythm that immediately caught the attention of the alien observers. They weren't a uniform group. Each individual brought something distinctly different to the team, yet they moved with an uncanny sense of collective purpose. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the group, her posture relaxed but alert. A former systems engineer turned military strategist, she had an unconventional background that reflected the diverse team around her. To her left, Marcus Chen adjusted his neural interface, his fingers dancing across a holographic display with practiced ease. A computational linguist by training, he specialized in complex communication systems and adaptive algorithms. Near the back of the group, Dr. Imani O'Keefe reviewed some final notes. Her background in xenoanthropology and conflict resolution made her an unexpected addition to a military training scenario. Next to her, Rafael Gonzalez was checking a complex multi-tool that seemed to combine technological and biological interfaces in a way that would perplex most alien engineers. The alien instructors studied the team with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Commander Xeltok's crystalline form shifted subtly, quantum sensors analyzing every minute detail of the human group. The team's neural patterns were unlike anything in the Galactic database, chaotic yet interconnected, unpredictable yet somehow harmonious. What the alien observers couldn't understand was the team's communication style. Humans didn't just exchange information, they seemed to anticipate each other's thoughts. A raised eyebrow, a slight gesture, a momentary pause. These were more than just physical communications. They represented a complex network of understanding that transcended traditional communication methods. Dr. Yara Nielsen, the team's Sen of Technology specialist, caught Raphael's eye and nodded. In that single gesture, they had communicated more than most species could in lengthy verbal exchanges. She was reviewing the team's custom-designed adaptive interface, a piece of technology that could reconfigure itself based on real-time challenges. The preparation area hummed with a unique energy. Unlike the rigid, protocol-driven teams of other species, these humans seemed to generate their own atmospheric tension. Some were engaged in quiet conversations, others were running final system checks, but all maintained an underlying sense of collective focus. Commander Zarak of the Centaurian Strategic Corps leaned closer to the observation window. His species was known for its rigid hierarchical structures and precise military training. The human team defied everything he understood about effective team dynamics. They didn't have a traditional command structure. Instead, leadership seemed to flow organically based on the specific challenges they faced. Marcus Chen suddenly laughed, a sound that made several alien instructors flinch. In most military training scenarios, such a response would be considered inappropriate. But here, it seemed to release a collective tension, helping the team reset their mental frameworks. The team's diversity was their greatest strength. They represented multiple disciplines, cultural backgrounds, and approaches to problem-solving. Where other species would have specialized teams with rigid roles, these humans seemed capable of shifting responsibilities seamlessly. Dr. O'Keefe was explaining something to Rodriguez, her hands moving expressively. A conversation about cultural conflict resolution was happening simultaneously with system checks and technological preparations. This multitasking approach was something the alien observers found particularly perplexing. 32 minutes to simulation initiation announced the facility's artificial intelligence in multiple linguistic frequencies. Most teams would be experiencing pre-simulation stress. The human team, however, seemed to be generating a collective energy that was more anticipatory than anxious. Rafael Gonzalez caught a momentary glance from Elena Rodriguez. No words were exchanged, but something passed between them, a shared understanding, a collective readiness that went beyond verbal or physical communication. The alien instructors continued their observations. Commander Xeltok's quantum sensors were working overtime, trying to decode the complex neural patterns of the human team. They weren't just preparing for a simulation. They were transforming the very concept of preparation. As the final countdown began, the human team seemed to synchronize without any explicit coordination. Their individual energies merged into a collective potential, a living, breathing entity of strategic possibility that defied traditional understanding of team dynamics. The simulation chamber's entrance began to iris open, revealing the massive holographic environment that had broken the spirits of countless advanced civilizations. The human team stepped forward, not with trepidation, but with a sense of collaborative excitement that promised to challenge everything the Galactic Peacekeeping Consortium thought they knew about strategic problem-solving. The holographic environment materialized with breathtaking complexity. Thousands of star systems flickered into existence, each a delicate ecosystem of political tensions, resource constraints, and potential conflicts. Millions of data points began to pulse with life, creating a living, breathing representation of galactic dynamics that would have overwhelmed most strategic teams within moments. Dr. Imani O'Keefe was the first to notice the subtle nuances buried within the initial simulation parameters. Her background in xenanthropology gave her a unique perspective that went beyond traditional military strategy. She leaned closer to the primary holographic display, her fingers tracing the intricate web of potential interactions between star systems. Communication pathways are more complex than they appear, she murmured to Marcus Chen, who was already running multiple computational models simultaneously. His neural interface seemed to blur the line between human intelligence and advanced computational systems, processing information at a rate that would have caused most alien technologies to overheat. The simulation's artificial intelligence began presenting initial scenarios, a cascade of potential conflicts that had previously crushed the spirits of countless advanced civilizations. Resource scarcity in the Orion peripheral zones, diplomatic tensions between the crystalline concordance and the silicon nomads, a brewing conflict over a strategic quantum resource depot that could trigger a massive interstellar confrontation. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez moved between holographic displays, her mind working in a way that defied traditional strategic thinking. Where previous teams would have focused on a single conflict or resource zone, she was simultaneously analyzing multiple potential interaction points. Her approach was less about solving individual problems and more about understanding the entire systemic ecosystem. Rafael Gonzalez had begun developing adaptive interface protocols that could reconfigure in real time. His custom-designed multi-tool was interfacing with the simulation in ways the system had never anticipated. It wasn't just collecting data, it was creating predictive models that could anticipate potential conflict escalations before they fully formed. The alien instructors in the observation deck watched with increasing confusion. Commander Xeltok's quantum-sensitive appendages vibrated with a mixture of frustration and curiosity. The human team wasn't following any recognizable strategic approach. They moved like a living neural network, information and decision-making flowing between team members with impossible fluidity. 12 minutes into the simulation, something extraordinary began to happen. The human team wasn't just responding to the scenarios presented. They were fundamentally reshaping the simulation's underlying parameters. Marcus Chen had identified several communication bottlenecks that previous teams had overlooked, developing communication protocols that could navigate the most complex diplomatic landscapes. Dr. Yara Nielsen was working on technological adaptations that seemed to bend the very rules of the simulation. Her understanding of xenotechnology went beyond traditional mechanical solutions. She was looking at the conflict zones as complex adaptive systems, identifying potential resolution paths that didn't rely on traditional military or diplomatic interventions. The simulation's artificial intelligence began to show signs of confusion. Its complex algorithms, designed to test strategic capabilities, were encountering an approach it couldn't easily categorize. The human team wasn't solving problems. They were transforming the very nature of the problems themselves. Look at the resource allocation in the Orion peripheral zones, Dr. O'Keefe called out, her voice calm but laden with excitement. She was pointing out how a seemingly minor diplomatic gesture could redistribute resources in a way that would completely eliminate the potential for conflict. Rafael Gonzalez had developed an adaptive interface that was now communicating with the simulation's core systems in a language that seemed to combine technological precision with human creativity. It wasn't just processing information, it was creating new possibilities in real time. 20 minutes into the simulation, the alien instructors began to realize they were witnessing something unprecedented. The human team wasn't approaching the scenario as a war simulation. They were treating it like a complex puzzle, with each member contributing the unique perspective that transformed potential conflicts into opportunities for collaborative resolution. Lieutenant Rodriguez moved between team members, not as a traditional commander, but as a facilitator. She wasn't giving orders. She was creating an environment where collective intelligence could flourish. Her leadership style was less about control and more about enabling the team's collective potential. The holographic displays began to shift in ways that defied the simulation's original programming. Conflict zones were being resolved through communication pathways that the artificial intelligence had never anticipated. Resource challenges were being transformed into collaborative opportunities. As the first hour of the simulation unfolded, it became clear that the human team was doing something more than just solving a strategic challenge. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of how intelligent species could approach complex, multidimensional problems. The galaxy within the simulation was no longer just a representation of potential conflicts. It was becoming a living system of collaborative potential, reshaped by a team that saw beyond traditional boundaries of strategy and conflict resolution. The simulation entered a critical phase that would have crushed lesser teams. Multiple star systems teetered on the brink of total conflict, their complex political landscapes seemingly impossible to navigate. Where previous teams would have defaulted to military solutions or diplomatic isolationism, the human team saw something entirely different. Marcus Chen's computational interface began to reveal patterns that defied traditional strategic analysis. He wasn't just processing data. He was interpreting the simulation's underlying social dynamics as a living, breathing ecosystem. His fingers danced across holographic displays, connecting seemingly unrelated data points into a coherent narrative of potential resolution. Dr. Imani Okik approached the developing conflict zones with a perspective that blended anthropological insight with strategic thinking. She identified cultural nuances that most military strategists would have overlooked. Subtle communication patterns, historical tensions, and potential collaborative opportunities hidden beneath layers of apparent conflict. Rafael Gonzalez had developed an adaptive technology interface that was now communicating with the simulation's core systems in ways never before imagined. It wasn't just processing information, it was creating new possibilities in real time, bridging gaps between different technological and cultural systems that previous teams had considered insurmountable. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez moved between team members like a conductor, not directing but enabling. Her leadership style was fluid, allowing expertise to rise to the surface exactly when needed. She understood that their strength lay not in individual brilliance, but in their collective intelligence. The alien instructors in the observation deck watched with increasing bewilderment. Commander Xeltok's quantum-sensitive appendages vibrated with a mixture of frustration and emerging respect. The human team was approaching the simulation with a methodology that defied all established strategic principles. Dr. Yara Nielsen was working on technological adaptations that seemed to rewrite the very rules of conflict resolution. She wasn't looking at the star systems as potential battlegrounds, but as interconnected networks of possibility. Her approach combined technological innovation with a deep understanding of systemic interactions. 30 minutes into this critical phase, the simulation began to change. Conflict zones that had been static for generations started to show signs of potential resolution. The human team wasn't solving problems through traditional means. They were transforming the very nature of the problems themselves. Marcus Chen's computational models revealed something extraordinary. The conflicts weren't just political or resource-based. They were fundamentally communication failures. By developing adaptive communication protocols that could bridge technological and cultural differences, the team was creating resolution pathways that no previous civilization had conceived. Raphael's adaptive interface began to show its true potential. It wasn't just processing information. It was creating a dynamic translation system that could navigate the most complex interspecies communication challenges. Diplomatic barriers that had existed for generations began to crumble under the weight of genuine understanding. Dr. O'Keefe identified cultural pivot points, moments where a slight shift in perspective could transform decades of tension into collaborative potential. Her understanding went beyond traditional diplomatic approaches, seeing conflict as a complex social ecosystem rather than a binary problem to be solved. The simulation's artificial intelligence began to show signs of genuine confusion. Its complex algorithms, designed to test strategic capabilities, were encountering an approach it couldn't easily categorize or predict. The human team wasn't playing by the established rules. They were rewriting them in real time. Lieutenant Rodriguez facilitated a level of team communication that seemed to transcend traditional information exchange. A raised eyebrow, a momentary gesture, a subtle shift in body language. These were more than just physical communications. They represented a complex network of collective intelligence that moved faster than any computational system could track. Dr. Yara Nielsen's technological innovations began to bridge seemingly impossible gaps. She wasn't just solving technological challenges. She was creating new ways of thinking about technological interaction. Resources that had been considered scarce were now being viewed as opportunities for collaborative development. The star systems within the simulation began to transform. What had been potential conflict zones were now becoming networks of collaborative potential. The human team was demonstrating something far more profound than strategic brilliance. They were showing a fundamentally different approach to understanding complex systemic challenges. Commander Xeltok leaned closer to the observation window, quantum sensors working overtime to comprehend what was unfolding. The human team wasn't just completing the simulation. They were redefining the very concept of strategic problem-solving. As the first hour of this critical phase concluded, it became clear that something extraordinary was happening. The human team wasn't just navigating a complex simulation. They were demonstrating their approach to understanding interconnected challenges that went far beyond traditional strategic thinking. The galaxy within the simulation was no longer a collection of potential conflicts. It was becoming a living system of collaborative potential, reshaped by a team that saw beyond boundaries, limitations, and established ways of thinking. The simulation entered a phase that would have completely overwhelmed any previous team. Multiple complex systems began to interact in ways that defied traditional strategic understanding. The human team didn't just adapt to these challenges. They began to fundamentally reshape the entire simulation's underlying architecture. Marcus Chen's computational interface had evolved beyond its initial programming. What started as a data processing system was now functioning like a living, adaptive intelligence. He wasn't just analyzing the simulation's parameters. He was creating new pathways of understanding that seemed to emerge from the data itself. Dr. Yara Nielsen stood at the intersection of technology and possibility. Her adaptive interface was now communicating with the simulation's core systems in a language that blended technological precision with human creativity. She identified technological bottlenecks that previous teams had never even recognized, let alone resolved. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez moved with a fluid grace that defied traditional leadership models. She wasn't controlling the team. She was creating an environment of collective intelligence where each member's unique capabilities could emerge exactly when needed. Her leadership was less about direction and more about facilitation. Rafael Gonzalez had developed a multi-tool that was now doing something extraordinary. It wasn't just processing information or solving problems. It was creating new frameworks of understanding. The device seemed to breathe with a life of its own, adapting to challenges faster than the simulation could generate them. The alien instructors in the observation deck began to show signs of genuine concern. Commander Xeltok's quantum-sensitive appendages vibrated with an intensity that suggested a complete breakdown of their understanding of strategic problem-solving. The human team was doing something unprecedented. Dr. Imani O'Keefe's anthropological insights began to reveal the deepest layers of the simulation's complexity. She wasn't just analyzing cultural interactions. She was identifying the fundamental communication patterns that drove conflict. Where previous teams saw insurmountable barriers, she saw intricate networks of potential understanding. 45 minutes into this critical phase, the simulation began to change in ways that defied its original programming. Conflict zones that had been considered permanently unstable started to show signs of genuine collaborative potential. The human team was transforming the very nature of the challenges presented. Marcus Chen's computational models revealed a breakthrough. The conflicts weren't just surface-level political or resource-based challenges. They were fundamentally complex communication failures that could be resolved through innovative approaches to understanding and interaction. Raphael's adaptive interface began to demonstrate capabilities that seemed to blur the line between technology and intelligence. It wasn't just processing information. It was creating dynamic translation systems that could navigate the most complex interspecies communication challenges. Dr. Nielsen's technological innovations went beyond traditional problem-solving. She was identifying technological ecosystems within the simulation, showing how resources and communication technologies could be reimagined as collaborative networks rather than competitive systems. The simulation's artificial intelligence showed increasing signs of confusion. Its complex algorithms, designed to test strategic capabilities, were encountering an approach that existed entirely outside its predictive models. The human team wasn't just solving problems. They were fundamentally reimagining the nature of problem-solving itself. Lieutenant Rodriguez facilitated a level of team communication that seemed to transcend traditional information exchange. The team moved like a single, adaptive intelligence, each member contributing unique perspectives that merged into a collective understanding far more powerful than any individual approach. Dr. O'Keefe's insights revealed the deepest layers of the simulation's complexity. She identified cultural pivot points, moments where a slight shift in perspective could transform decades of potential conflict into opportunities for collaborative development. The star systems within the simulation began to transform in ways that defied traditional strategic understanding. What had been considered impossible conflict zones were now becoming networks of collaborative potential. The human team was demonstrating something far more profound than strategic brilliance. Commander Xeltok's quantum sensors were working at maximum capacity, trying to comprehend the unprecedented approach unfolding before them. The human team wasn't just completing the simulation, they were redefining the entire concept of strategic problem-solving. Raphael's multi-tool had become something more than a technological device. It was now functioning as an adaptive intelligence that could anticipate and resolve challenges before they fully formed. The line between technology and intelligent problem-solving had become completely blurred. As the simulation approached its most critical phase, it became clear that something extraordinary was happening. The human team wasn't just navigating a complex scenario. They were demonstrating an approach to understanding interconnected challenges that went far beyond any established strategic thinking. The galaxy within the simulation was no longer a collection of potential conflicts. It had become a living system of collaborative potential, reshaped by a team that saw beyond boundaries, limitations, and established ways of understanding complex systemic challenges. The simulation reached a critical juncture that would have destroyed the resolve of any previous team. Multiple galactic systems converged into a complex web of potential conflicts so intricate that most strategic teams would have collapsed under the pressure. But the human team saw something entirely different, an opportunity hidden within the chaos. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a holographic display that looked like a living, breathing galaxy. Her eyes moved rapidly, tracking multiple interconnected scenarios simultaneously. Where traditional strategists would see insurmountable challenges, she saw a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Marcus Chen's computational systems had evolved beyond their original programming. His neural interface was now functioning as an extension of collective human intelligence, processing information at speeds that would have overwhelmed any known computational technology. He was no longer just analyzing data. He was interpreting the fundamental language of complex systemic interactions. Dr. Imani Okeke identified the hidden communication pathways that ran beneath the surface of the apparent conflicts. Her anthropological insights revealed that what seemed like irreconcilable differences were actually misunderstood communication challenges. Each potential conflict zone contained the seeds of collaborative potential. Rafael Gonzalez had transformed his multi-tool into something that defied traditional technological understanding. It was no longer just a device. It was an adaptive intelligence that could anticipate and resolve challenges before they fully formed. The boundary between human creativity and technological innovation had completely dissolved. The alien instructors in the observation deck fell into complete silence. Commander Xeltok's quantum-sensitive appendages vibrated with an intensity that suggested a fundamental breakdown of everything they understood about strategic problem-solving. The human team was doing something unprecedented. Dr. Yara Nielsen moved between holographic displays, her technological innovations creating bridges between seemingly impossible systems. She wasn't just solving technological challenges. She was reimagining how technological ecosystems could interact and evolve. 50 minutes into the most critical phase of the simulation, something extraordinary began to happen. The conflict zones that had been considered permanently unstable started to transform. What had appeared to be insurmountable barriers were now becoming networks of collaborative potential. Marcus Chen's computational models revealed a breakthrough that went beyond traditional strategic thinking. The conflicts weren't just political or resource-based challenges. They were complex communication failures that could be resolved through innovative approaches to understanding and interaction. Lieutenant Rodriguez facilitated a level of team communication that seemed to transcend traditional information exchange. A subtle gesture, a momentary glance, a barely perceptible shift in body language. These were more than just physical communications. They represented a complex network of collective intelligence that moved faster than any computational system could track. Rafael's adaptive interface began to demonstrate capabilities that blurred the line between technology and intelligence. It created dynamic translation systems that could navigate the most complex interspecies communication challenges, identifying resolution pathways that no previous civilization had conceived. Dr. Okeke's insights revealed the deepest layers of the simulation's complexity. She identified cultural pivot points, moments where a slight shift in perspective could transform decades of potential conflict into opportunities for collaborative development. Her approach went far beyond traditional diplomatic strategies. The simulation's artificial intelligence showed increasing signs of genuine confusion. Its complex algorithms, designed to test strategic capabilities, were encountering an approach that existed entirely outside its predictive models. The human team wasn't just solving problems. They were fundamentally reimagining the nature of problem-solving itself. Commander Xeltok leaned closer to the observation window, quantum sensors working at maximum capacity. The human team was demonstrating an approach to understanding interconnected challenges that went far beyond any established strategic thinking. Dr. Nielsen's technological innovations went beyond traditional problem-solving. She identified technological ecosystems within the simulation, showing how resources and communication technologies could be reimagined as collaborative networks rather than competitive systems. The star systems within the simulation began to transform in ways that defied traditional strategic understanding. Conflict zones dissolved, replaced by intricate networks of collaborative potential. The human team was showing something far more profound than strategic brilliance. They were demonstrating a completely new approach to understanding complex systemic challenges. As the simulation approached its final moments, it became clear that something extraordinary was happening. The team wasn't just navigating a complex scenario. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of how intelligent species could approach multidimensional challenges. The galaxy within the simulation was no longer a collection of potential conflicts. It had become a living system of collaborative potential, reshaped by a team that saw beyond boundaries, limitations, and established ways of understanding complex interstellar interactions. In that moment, the human team transformed from mere participants to something more, architects of a new understanding of collective problem-solving that would challenge everything the Galactic Peacekeeping Consortium thought they knew about strategic intelligence. The observation deck fell into a profound silence that seemed to stretch across the entire facility. Alien instructors from dozens of advanced civilizations watched in complete disbelief as the human team approached the simulation's final moments with an approach that defied every established understanding of strategic problem-solving. Commander Exceltoc's quantum-sensitive appendages trembled with an intensity that suggested a complete breakdown of everything they had ever understood about intelligent systems. The human team wasn't just completing the simulation. They were fundamentally rewriting the rules of how complex challenges could be approached. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez moved with a fluid grace that transcended traditional leadership models. She wasn't directing the team. She was creating an environment of collective intelligence, where each member's unique capabilities emerged precisely when needed. Her leadership was less about control and more about facilitation, a delicate dance of collaborative potential. Marcus Chen's computational systems had evolved into something that blurred the line between technology and intelligence. His neural interface processed information in ways that would have been considered impossible by any known scientific standard. He was no longer just analyzing data. He was interpreting the fundamental language of complex systemic interactions. Dr. Imani Okik stood at the intersection of anthropological insight and strategic thinking. Where previous teams saw insurmountable barriers, she identified intricate networks of communication and potential understanding. Her perspective transformed what appeared to be irreconcilable differences into opportunities for collaborative resolution. Rafael Gonzalez's adaptive multi-tool had become a living testament to human technological innovation. It was no longer a mere device, but an extension of collective human creativity, anticipating challenges, creating resolution pathways, and bridging seemingly impossible technological and cultural divides. Dr. Yara Nielsen moved between holographic displays, her technological innovations creating bridges across complex systemic challenges. She wasn't just solving technological problems. She was reimagining how technological ecosystems could interact, evolve, and transform. The simulation's artificial intelligence showed signs of complete bewilderment. Its complex algorithms, designed to test the strategic capabilities of advanced civilizations, had encountered an approach that existed entirely outside its predictive models. The human team was doing something unprecedented. They were solving problems by fundamentally reimagining the nature of the problems themselves. Each team member contributed to a collective intelligence that moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional understanding. A raised eyebrow, a subtle gesture, a momentary glance. These were more than just physical communications. They represented a complex network of understanding that moved faster than any computational system could track. Commander Exceltoc's observation team began to realize they were witnessing something far more significant than a simple training simulation. The human team was demonstrating an approach to understanding interconnected challenges that went far beyond any established strategic thinking. The star systems within the simulation transformed in ways that defied traditional strategic understanding. Conflict zones dissolved, replaced by intricate networks of collaborative potential. What had been considered permanently unstable regions became dynamic ecosystems of mutual understanding and cooperative development. Marcus Chen's computational models revealed breakthrough after breakthrough. The conflicts weren't just surface-level political or resource-based challenges. They were complex communication failures that could be resolved through innovative approaches to understanding and interaction. Dr. Okik identified cultural pivot points with remarkable precision, moments where a slight shift in perspective could transform decades of potential conflict into opportunities for collaborative development. Her approach went far beyond traditional diplomatic strategies, revealing the deep interconnectedness of complex social systems. Raphael's adaptive interface created dynamic translation systems that could navigate the most complex interspecies communication challenges. It identified resolution pathways that no previous civilization had even conceived, bridging technological and cultural divides with remarkable ease. Lieutenant Rodriguez facilitated a level of team communication that seemed to transcend traditional information exchange. The team moved like a single adaptive intelligence, each member contributing unique perspectives that merged into a collective understanding far more powerful than any individual approach. The alien instructors exchanged glances of increasing amazement. What they were witnessing was more than just a successful simulation completion. It was a fundamental challenge to everything they understood about strategic problem-solving, interspecies communication, and the nature of intelligent cooperation. Dr. Nielsen's technological innovations showed how resources and communication technologies could be reimagined as collaborative networks rather than competitive systems. She was creating new ways of understanding technological interaction that went beyond traditional resource management. As the simulation approached its final moments, it became abundantly clear that something extraordinary was happening. The human team wasn't just navigating a complex scenario. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of how intelligent species could approach multidimensional challenges. The galaxy within the simulation was no longer a collection of potential conflicts. It had become a living system of collaborative potential, reshaped by a team that saw beyond boundaries, limitations, and established ways of understanding complex interstellar interactions. In those final moments, the human team transformed from mere participants to architects of a new understanding, a testament to the power of collective intelligence, creative problem-solving, and the extraordinary potential of collaborative thinking. The debriefing room hummed with an electric tension that seemed to defy the laws of conventional communication. Alien representatives from the Galactic Peacekeeping Consortium sat in stunned silence, their advanced sensory organs struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the room, her posture relaxed yet radiating an undeniable sense of collective achievement. Behind her, the rest of the human team presented a united front, not through rigid formation, but through an almost telepathic sense of shared understanding. Commander Exceltok, representative of the Centaurian Strategic Corps, was the first to break the silence. His crystalline form shifted with what could only be described as a mixture of confusion and emerging respect. "Explain," he demanded, his translation device struggling to capture the full complexity of his emotional state. Dr. Imani Okik stepped forward, her anthropological insights providing a framework for understanding their unprecedented approach. "We didn't solve the simulation," she began, her voice calm and measured. "We transformed it." The challenges weren't obstacles, they were opportunities for collaborative resolution. Marcus Chen's computational analysis materialized in a holographic display, revealing layers of strategic insights that defied traditional understanding. Each data point told a story of interconnectedness, of communication pathways that most species had never even conceived of existing. Rafael Gonzalez demonstrated the adaptive interface that had been crucial to their success. It wasn't a technological tool in the traditional sense. It was an extension of human creativity, a bridge between technological possibility and collaborative potential. Dr. Yara Nielsen explained the technological innovations that had emerged during the simulation. She didn't present them as achievements, but as natural outcomes of a fundamentally different approach to understanding complex systemic challenges. The alien representatives leaned forward, their various sensory organs working overtime to comprehend the presentation. What they were hearing was more than just a strategic breakdown. It was a complete reimagining of how intelligent species could approach complex challenges. "We approached the simulation as a living ecosystem," Lieutenant Rodriguez explained, "not as a series of problems to be solved, but as a network of potential interactions waiting to be understood." Each team member contributed to the explanation, their communication so fluid that it seemed to transcend traditional verbal exchange. A gesture from Marcus would be completed by an insight from Dr. Okik, A technological explanation from Raphael would be expanded by Dr. Nielsen's systemic understanding. Commander Xeltok's quantum-sensitive appendages vibrated with increasing intensity. The human team was demonstrating an approach to understanding interconnected challenges that went far beyond any established strategic thinking. The holographic displays continued to shift, revealing layers of the simulation that most species would have overlooked. Communication pathways that seemed impossible, resource allocation strategies that defied traditional economic models, diplomatic approaches that transformed potential conflicts into collaborative opportunities. Dr. Imani O'Keefe revealed the anthropological insights that had been crucial to their approach. Conflict isn't a binary state, she explained. It's a complex communication challenge. Every potential point of tension contains the seeds of mutual understanding. Rafael Gonzalez demonstrated how their adaptive interface had created dynamic translation systems that could navigate the most complex interspecies communication challenges. It wasn't just processing information, it was creating new frameworks of understanding. The alien representatives began to realize they were witnessing something far more significant than a successful training simulation. The human team was presenting a fundamentally different approach to understanding complex systemic challenges. Marcus Chen's computational models continued to unfold, revealing breakthrough after breakthrough. The conflicts weren't just surface-level challenges. They were complex communication failures that could be resolved through innovative approaches to understanding and interaction. Dr. Yara Nielsen showed how technological ecosystems could be reimagined as collaborative networks rather than competitive systems. Her innovations suggested entirely new approaches to resource management and technological interaction. Lieutenant Rodriguez facilitated the presentation with a leadership style that defied traditional hierarchical models. She wasn't controlling the narrative. She was creating an environment where collective intelligence could emerge naturally. The debriefing room transformed from a place of evaluation to a space of collective discovery. The human team wasn't just presenting their simulation results. They were offering a new perspective on how intelligent species could approach complex challenges. As the presentation concluded, the alien representatives exchanged glances that spoke volumes. What they had witnessed was more than just a successful training exercise. It was a fundamental challenge to everything they understood about strategic problem-solving, interspecies communication, and the nature of intelligent cooperation. The Galactic Peacekeeping Consortium's records would be updated. The impossible simulation that had broken the spirits of countless advanced civilizations had been completed by a human team in less than an hour, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through a revolutionary approach to understanding complex systemic challenges. In that moment, humanity had demonstrated something far more profound than strategic brilliance. They had shown that true intelligence is not about controlling or conquering, but about understanding, adapting, and finding collaborative potential in the most unexpected places.